Hey guys, it's Sam and today I'm doing the professional book tag. I saw this tag on Curls, Pearls, and Other Worlds and it was originally started by The Little Red. I'll put both of them down in the doobly-doo so you can go check those out. But this is a tag that revolves around professions and questions related to different professions. The first question is Doctor, and it's a book that consoles you or helps you. For this I picked the Anita Blake series. I've talked about this series before. This is only about 3 books in the series of now 23, I think. I've only read 18 of them, but as you can see, these are pretty beat up. This is a series that I reread again and again in high school and college, and then after college too. I think I've reread this series about 4 times, maybe more. So these are real beat up. I have a couple of the books that are actually losing pages because they're just the mass market paperbacks and aren't very high quality, but I love these books. Like, I bought these new. That's how much I've reread them. So I love these books. I am probably going to reread the series again soon. It's a little sad for me because the books have kind of fallen into a weird point, so I don't really love them as much as I used to, and I really held on a lot longer than a lot of people did when it comes to these books. Basically, this is an urban paranormal fiction series, and it follows Anita Blake, who is a vampire hunter slash federal marshal slash necromancer, I think they call it in that, or an animator, I forget because it's been a while, but she raises zombies and stuff, and it's a world where all those kinds of people exist. She's a professional, so she's hired to do all these kinds of things, and it starts out with her kind of being, it's like paranormal crime slash love stories intermixed, and it kind of descends into very mature content. Don't get me wrong, the first couple of books are graphic anyway, as far as like blood and guts, but it goes into like the graphic XXX rated stuff about maybe 12 or 10 books in. I don't know. At first it was fine, and now it's gotten to a point where it kind of dominates the whole series. So I'm a little skeptical to pick these back up. I would actually love to pick them up once the series wraps up and ends, and then just kind of marathon all the way through them, because it's just reached a point where I don't really love them as much as I used to. But like I said, this is a book series where I love all of the characters. I miss the characters. My best friend and I actually read these all together for the first time around. We used to talk about these characters like they were our real life friends, like when we would talk about the books. So I love these books, and they still will always have a special place in my heart, and if I ever really need something to just read that will, you know, I'm just used to and it's nostalgic, this is what I would pick up. The second question is Chef, which is a book with a lot of ingredients and a little bit of everything, and for that I actually picked Bitter Blue. This is the 3rd book in the Seven Realms trilogy. I've actually done a gush slash review on the entire series. I'll post that down below. There are some spoilers in there, so if you don't want any of that, then don't look at that. I will also put this in my wrap up for this month, so if you want to look more into spoiler free review, then check the wrap up out at the end of the month. But I really love this. There's romance, there's great family relationships, there's great romantic relationships, there's great platonic relationships, political relationships, there's great world building, there's a map in the front, there's everything. It's huge, it has action, it has just plot building, it has character development. I can gush about this book forever because I already have. So like I said, either watch one of those 2 videos and I will talk more about it, but I really love this book and it does have a bit of everything in it. The third question is Barista, a book that gets you pumped, and that would be Cinder, the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. I haven't gotten to read the rest of them yet, but I really love this series. It's very fast-paced, very action-packed, very sci-fi. It has fairy tale retelling, which I love and I would always be pumped about. So very excited to read the rest of these, and I just really enjoy this series and it really just makes me happy. The 4th question is Student, an assigned book that you really enjoyed. I'll admit that I liked a lot of the books that I read in high school. I hate to be that person, but I didn't really hate any book. I was happy to kind of read whatever I was given, but the book that no one really talks about that I really enjoyed in high school was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is just the copy that I had back in high school, so it's not the prettiest edition or anything. I'm hoping to get the Penguin cloth-bound Classics edition with the pretty covers of a bunch of my different classics that I have back from high school, like Pride and Prejudice and I think like Oliver Twist and stuff like that, Dorian Gray. So I want to pick up a better edition of this and reread it because I don't really remember a ton of the story, but I remember loving it and it being my favorite book that I read senior year for English class. So I really enjoyed this book. The 5th question is Lawyer, a book that you didn't like as much as everyone else or only thought was okay and feel like you have to defend, and for that I chose The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I hate this book. I'm sorry. And I don't really feel that bad defending it. I've tried to read it 3 times, so I can solidly say that I do not like this book. I do not like the fake language that they made up for the everybody in the maze, the civilization. I know that a lot of people love this book and just really enjoy it, and I just can't read it. Like I said, I hate the language. I don't really bond with the main character at all. I don't remember his name. I've gotten, I think, over 100 pages into it, and I still just can't get attached. And I've tried 3 separate times in 3 different mindsets, and I just can't get into it. I do really want to watch the movie, and hopefully I can enjoy that, but I've also seen that people had a hard time, people who love the first book had a hard time with the last couple of books in the series and the prequel and stuff, so I figured if I can't enjoy this, there's no point in struggling through this and then trying to get through the other ones. I'm just not going to enjoy it, and I just don't really like it. I'm probably going to give this away soon, but if anybody else feels that way about The Maze Runner, please comment down below, because nobody on BookTube, I feel like, feels that way. Everybody loves The Maze Runner, and I wanted to love it. I had it on my TBR for like a year, and I finally picked it up, and I just can't, and I'm sorry. Question number 6 is Actor, a book with a well-rounded protagonist, and for that I picked Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I read this book a while ago now, probably a couple years ago, and at first I wasn't really sure how I felt about this book. I really just kind of didn't like it. I was so iffy about it. For those of you that don't know, it kind of ties up in a... It doesn't really tie up, honestly. There's a lot of open-ended things left at the very end of this book. And I know that there's kind of a series about this, but I didn't really want to read the rest of it. I just kind of wanted to wrap it up with Wicked. So the one thing I will say, though, the more time that I've spent away from it, the more I really kind of enjoyed it. And I think I'll reread this and really get a lot more out of it. But I will say, regardless of how I felt about it after, I loved the protagonist. Elphaba is a very strong protagonist. She knows who she is, she knows what she wants. She might make some bad decisions and decisions that are kind of stupid, but she knows who she is. She's very set in her ways, and she's a very well-rounded, very aware, very self-aware character. Question number 7 is Retail, a book you had to have, and for that I picked Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevre. I saw this book on a couple people's BookTube recommendation a couple years ago, and I saw that it was about assassins and like lady killers and women that were trained basically to serve death and were kind of trained like a convent. I almost said nunnery. That is not what you call a convent. Raised in a convent. And there's not a lot of stuff to do with like nuns or religion, but basically it was just, when I heard lady killers and assassins, that was one of my buzzwords. I had to have it. I picked it up, and very soon after picking it up I read it and I loved it. And I want to read the rest of the books in the My Fair Assassins, I think it's a trilogy, the rest of them, but this is just right up my alley. I had to have it. Question number 8 is Artist, and that is about favorite book cover. The book cover that is my favorite right now actually goes to a book that's not out yet, and it's called 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, and it's coming out in November. I will post a picture here, hopefully. Hopefully that worked. But I love that cover. It is gorgeous. I'm actually going to pre-order that book because, one, it sounds like it's right up my alley. It's like time travel / dimension jumping, and it just sounds cool. If you haven't read about it, go read the synopsis on Goodreads or Amazon or wherever. It's coming out in November. It looks amazing, and that cover is to die for. It's gorgeous. I can't wait to have it. Question number 9 is Editor, and it's a book that you were criticizing the entire time instead of really enjoying, and for that I picked The Devil Wears Prada. I no longer own this book either. I actually picked it up at a Goodwill a while ago and was trying to read through it. This was, like I said, a while ago, and I had seen the movie. I enjoyed the movie for what it is, a funny chick flick kind of movie, and the book was nothing like that. And not that I compare movies and books, because I really don't. I try to keep them as 2 separate things in my head, but the book was so unlikable, and the characters were so unlikable, and Andy as a character was just awful, and I couldn't get behind anything she was doing, and it just, actually that's the only book on my entire Goodreads account that I've given 1 star. I couldn't even finish it, and I actually got further into that than I even got into The Maze Runner, so I might dislike that more than The Maze Runner, but I just couldn't get over a lot of things in that book, and I just did not enjoy it at all, so yeah. Number 10 is a well-structured or well-written book. I didn't write down the profession for this, and I'm sorry. I don't remember. I think it's either carpenter or architect. I'm sorry. I'll post all the questions down below so you guys can read over them if you want to do the tag and whatever. But for that, I picked The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have already talked about this book in like almost every tag or top 5 or whatever. It's my favorite book. I love this book. You can look at probably any other of my videos and see everything that I've talked about it about. That this has been mentioned a ton. I love this book. If you haven't read it, I recommend going and reading it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's a good book. It's well written. I love it. Question number 11 is Veterinarian, a book that includes an animal somewhat significantly. I haven't read any books that really include animals as a main character. I haven't read like Black Beauty or any of those. So the book that I picked for this was actually the Aporson series, specifically Sabriel by Garth Nix. The animal in this, his name is Mogget, and he is a cat, and he's a talking cat. I don't want to give away the reason that he's a talking cat, because that's kind of like a plot, major plot point, but I love him. He's kind of like a Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He's very sassy and snarky and just like, yeah, he's a spunky sidekick. So if you really enjoy books that have animal sidekicks, the other 2 books in the series, Lyriel and Aporson, have a talking dog in it because it's a separate protagonist and it's at a separate timeline. So if you really enjoy animals as sidekicks, then you would really enjoy this series, and the series is really good overall. I'll talk more about it at some point. Question number 12 is Scientist, a book with advanced technology, and basically any dystopian falls under that at this point. I just picked The Hunger Games because this has the most advanced, I think, of all the technology of the dystopians right now. Between all of the different modes of transportation and all the things beauty related in the Hunger Games in the Capitol, and their medical advances, and even that liquid that they used to throw up so they could eat more. I mean, the technology in that is just so extreme. So Hunger Games takes the cake for that. The last question is Teacher, a book that takes place in a boarding school, and I actually chose Anna and the French Kiss. I just finished reading this a few days ago. I will include more about it in my July wrap-up. I really enjoyed this book. This was super cute. There's some people that are really into boarding school books. They'll read any book that comes out from a boarding school. If you're one of those people, I would recommend reading this. This book is super cute. It takes place in a boarding school in France with American students, so it's adorable. If you like little cute love stories that actually have a little bit more to it than just being a cute love story, I'd recommend Anna and the French Kiss. I will talk more about it in my wrap-up, but I loved it. Alright guys, that is it for the tag. I'm going to tag Georgia from Georgia Nicolau, I don't know if that's how you pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, and Hannah from Spells and Words, and Shannon from cozyteareads. I'm not sure if all of you do tags, but hopefully you do, because I'd love to see your answers. And then anybody else that wants to do this tag, obviously feel free. I wasn't specifically tagged by anybody, and I thought it was a really fun tag, so if you do this, please post down below and let me know, and I'll go check yours out, and I will see all of you guys soon. Bye!